Usually, man, when we're talking about like the greatest players, we kind of like almost default to talking about the rings. But today we're throwing the rings completely out the window because we're discussing who are the best players that don't have a ring. So this is like current players, former players, all of them grouped together. Who is the best super out there in the NBA without a ring? So today's gonna be an interesting one, man. This is probably like the hardest list or hardest discovery I had to do, like period. Because usually we default to rings. It's like, oh, he got more rings, and you can weigh out how he did in championship versus this one, and it's like, all right, cool, he's a better player. But today it's like nobody has the rings. So for you, man, how did you kind of like sit down and think through how to make your list and who better than who and who did what? How did you kind of put it together for you?
Well, I think the first thing you look at obviously is got to be MVPs. You got to look at MVPs first because that's basically the best individual award you can win outside of a championship and Finals MVP.
Yeah.
So if you win an MVP, that means even no matter what happens, the league recognized you as the best player this season. So if you got more than one, that means you was the best player or had the best season multiple times. So, obviously I think that's the first go to when we talking outside the rings. And then after that I gotta look at all NBAs, man. How many times was you one of the best players or the best player at your position? Because
Hmm.
I feel like that's one of the things like, okay, you first team all NBA multiple times with no ring, you very clearly was well respected in the league. You know what I mean? So if you first team all NBA 8, 9, 10 times, you was doing something. Like
Yeah.
you don't happen upon man. My coach used to me and my coach, my assistant coach, Coach Butler, when I won my first defensive player of the year, and then that next year I'm defending my defensive player of the year. I saying the whole year was they ain't just giving out awards. So we used to go out there. I might have a big defensive play, lock somebody up, whatever, and we would walk up to each other and say, "Hey, they ain't just giving out awards. You got to earn them. So if you getting awards on the regular, despite not winning championships, it's respecting that. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
that I think that's my first two things. And then after that, there's obviously more trickle down effect. Like some other guys might got a defensive player of the year, or like you might have scoring records or assist records, stuff like that. So I think those are the next tier that we have to look at. But first things first, I got to go to the MVPs and then the All NBAs because that's really letting me know, at least at your position, how dominant were you for real, for real.
Yeah, I think that's automatically like what you have to look at because you look at like you said, it's an individual discussion right here. So I can't go based only off team success in your championship. So of course the first thing I look at is MVPs. The second thing you gotta look at, like you said, is all NBAs. And I think the third thing you look at is like what records and stuff do you hold? Like
Right.
what did you do individually to shake up the game? Like statistically, well, I can point to these numbers and say, oh, he holds this spot in all time. This he holds this spot with this many records of doing that because that's what I did as a player. My team could have been trash and whatever, but I did this. I stand on this right here. And I think last you kind of like the eye test of what you like. You can hoop, bro. Like, yeah, you can play ball, bro. That's the obvious thing. So I think that's kind of what you have to be iffy with when it comes to. At least I was because like I know you can hoop, but I go look at your numbers. And it's like, oh, your numbers don't show like the black and white objective part of you can hoop. That was the toughest part about this because some people gonna look at my list and be like, well, you ain't got them on there. I'm like, look, bro,
Look,
player for
bro.
player, he can ball. But you look at his stats, it's like it don't back up where he shows his talent didn't match his stats. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
And like you look at the output of what he had, it doesn't match the good of a player that he was. Yes, injuries played a role. Cool. But I can't negate this man's injuries for what he didn't have in the output. So I can't sit here and just play favorites because I know he can hoop and he could have did more. It's like I have to go off what happened. So that's probably one of the toughest parts about this is that I had to leave a couple people off that I know they can play. I know talent wise they should be up there. But you look at the output of what they did compared to this other person's output, I gotta knock them down or knock them off. So that's probably the toughest part for me.
Yeah, man. I feel the same way, bro. It's like I feel like we all is it when you really a hoop fan. and not just a basketball like casual. I guess I hate using that word because I feel like it gets thrown around so much now. But when you're really a hoop fan, you always gonna have a couple guys that might have never won a ring, maybe not even have ever been on a really good team, and that might be one of your favorite players. Like when
Yeah.
you really love basketball, like you gonna have a guy every now and then that's like, man, if he was on a better team, he'll be the guy. You know what I mean? So,
Mm.
or you might just love that game and what they could do, but they just never had that surrounding cast or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely hard to leave some guys off the list. I had one guy in particular that kind of hurt me. I mean, we gonna get into it. I had one guy in particular I left off that I was like, man, I feel like B gonna have him on there. It kind of hurt me to leave him off, but I chose a different guy. You probably don't know what I'm talking about when we get into it, but it hurt me a little bit to leave one of these guys.
Oh man, let me look at my list and see. I got somebody left off that hurt me big time, and I'm just like, cause that's one of my people I rock with, so it hurt me to not put them on there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's tough when I look at my list, man. But I had to be objective as possible on here to make it be a true list of like the best 10 and then ranking them in order. So I got a couple people I want to throw at you is like the first tier. Like these are going to be honorable mentions. And
Okay.
as we get into it, we can kind of like, because I don't want to talk about anybody you could possibly have on your list. But these are three people that I feel like are not going to be on the list because I didn't like the first list I sent you. They weren't on it. I thought about it later on. I thought about it yesterday actually. So we'll
Mm.
kind of play around with this at first, and then we can get into like who you got as number 10 and go on from there. All right.
All right. Sound good, bro. I'm ready.
All right. So first and foremost, man, when I was doing research and looking through this, I saw his name a couple of times and I was like, oh, interesting. Why did I think about him? So first and foremost, man, first honorable mention, Chris Webber.
Valid. That's very valid. Chris is
Cause
one of them
I
guys.
he one of the people that like you think about it, it's like when we think about the best power forward, especially like the early 2000s, we always forget about C Webb. We always forget about him. Like we think about KG, Dirk, and Timmy all the time. But then that fourth guy, you could probably say it's probably gonna be C Webb, at least from the early 2000s. So C Webb is the first honorable mention of like one of those people who were a problem. Gave you problems. He's like 6'8", 6'9", doing what he did, man. 2010 guy. So C Web's the first honorable mention. How you feel about C Web?
Yeah, C. Webb is like one of them guys, like I mentioned, where it's like, man, that could be your favorite player. And he just never really had that team. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
them early 2000s Kings had a chance to make it, but having to be in that Shaq and Kobe era is tough. You know what I mean? But yeah,
Yeah,
C. Webb definitely deserved his flowers for his time. What he did at his time, because he was one of those guys. Like I said, like he could be a problem for anybody. It don't matter who it is, but he just never had that team to where it was like, all right, yeah, they're gonna win it all this year. You know what I mean?
yeah. He was definitely one of them people who I think he fits in that category of like the way we look at certain players from the '90s is like you just ran against Jordan. Like I'm sorry, but it is what it is. So I think C Web is in that category and group of people that are like, man, you great. You could have been even better and had more success, but you just ran into like an all-time legendary juggernaut here. It
Yeah.
happened to be Kobe and Shaq. Like, he couldn't even get a finals appearance because he had to go in against conference finals against those two. So C Web is the first one that we have to mention here. Um, you got anybody want to mention, or you want me to get off my list?
No, you good. You go ahead. I didn't really do an honorable mention for the exact same reason you just said. Like, I didn't want to name people that you might have had. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
nah, but Chris Webber was not on my list. So that. I think he definitely kind of deserved to be mentioned, which is why it was good for him to be in the honorable mention category.
yeah, yeah. So next is LaMarcus Aldridge.
That's
He
also
he
valid.
he's in like that next generation of for that position, true hooper, baller, carried his weight, did his thing. But same thing for him, he just kind of couldn't get over that hump and that hurdle of being in like that next tier of guys. Like he still ran into like the KG, Dirk, Timmy group, but he's still a little bit younger, so he snuck out of there. But then he never had that next level of success. But he was still like a 2010 guy. balled out, carried the Trailblazers for years until Dame, took the reign from him. And, he went to San Antonio, tried to do the Tim Duncan route. Didn't work out for him the same way, but, LA was a true hooper, man. He was getting busy when he had his time. So
Yeah,
that's the
for sure.
second person for the honorable mention of best hoopers without a ring.
Yeah, definitely deserved, man. I feel like if he could have stayed a little bit more healthy, he might would have had one. And you got those guys, obviously, but he was one. The only thing I think people remember LA for now is he gonna knock down that mid. That mid range is good every time. And
Yeah.
but he was definitely a bucket. People don't remember where folks our age and younger don't really remember how good he really was. You know what I mean? Like he was on pace to really be one of those big name power forwards from the 2000 to into the 2010s.
Hmm.
He was one of those guys that was getting ready to start competing with the Kevin Garnett's and the Tim Duncans and the Dirk Nowitzkis. You know what I mean? So I just think injuries kind of derailed him a little bit. And then Dame came. I think him and Dame would have been dangerous, obviously. But when Dame came and then he was kind of not panning out, I guess, they kind of moved off of him and it just never came back. It just never circled back around for him. So it's tough, but I mean, he deserved to be mentioned also.
Yeah, LA was one of them guys that, like you said, he was in that category like Chris Bosh's that were looking at like that next generation of power forwards to take the reins from that big that we keep mentioning and be like, oh, they're the next generation of these great power forwards. Like him, Kevin Love, Bosh, all those guys are kind of in the same group, the same category of like, man, which one's going to end up being like the next big power forward to come through and change the game. But like you said, injuries messed him up, man. So he had to get an honorable mention before we get into it. And then the last guy who honestly, when I look back through it, man, I almost put him on the list, but I just couldn't do it. Is Dominique Wilkins. He was one of
He,
them. He one of the ones, man. He was the same thing of like, man, you just ran to Jordan. I'm sorry, bro. You balled, you hooped, did your thing, but you ran to Jordan and Bird. So
I was just going to say, I wouldn't even say he ran to Joy, he ran to Bird. He called Bird first. I'm talking about early Bird. And so it was one of them things, man. It's tough though, because Dominique Wilkins, next best player was who? Like Tree Rollins, Spud Webb, Doc Rivers. That's a solid squad. Don't get me wrong, that's solid. But then when you got Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish, you
they
know
don't,
what I mean?
they don't compare, bro.
It don't compare. It gets spooky. So he just ran up against Bird and them Celtics, and it wasn't much he could do. So he was that guy, one of those guys. As we was talking before we got on, he was one of them guys. I was like debating, like, man, could he be 10th? You know what I mean? He was one of them last few guys left off the list. So I actually am kind of glad you threw him in there for the honorable mention, because I definitely thought about like sliding him number 10, but then I went with a different guy, obviously. But yeah, man, he deserves his flowers, bro. Dominique was one of those guys, kind of a Vince Carter before Vince Carter type of deal. You know what I mean? He was like the original Vince Carter. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned him also.
All right,
I'm
so
starting.
I had to do him last because I felt like he was the probably out of these three. I feel like he was the one that could have snuck in and being 10. Like he's the guy I was arguing with myself about. Like, man, should I put him 10? Could I arguably sweep him in there at 9? But I had to leave him off there, man. So let's finally get into our rankings, get into our list. Because I don't want to mention anybody before we get into it. I don't mention anybody else just because I don't know who you got on your list, and I don't want to mention somebody
Right.
and be like, "Oh, he my number 9 pick." I'm like, "Ooh, sorry, man," but you know.
Yeah, nah, you good. It worked out perfectly.
All right, so I feel a little better about that. So number 10, the 10th best player of all time. Who you got on your list, man? Without a ring, who you got?
Man, some of y'all might hate me. I ain't gonna lie. Some of y'all might be mad. But I gotta go with Paul George, number
Hmm.
10.
Mm.
Paul George, I feel like, does not get the credit he deserves for his all-time standards. And this is why I say that. Paul don't got no MVPs, obviously. No individual or DPOIs, none of that. He don't got that. But Paul George came into the league with what I would feel like was no expectations for real.
Hmm.
And went to that Indiana Pacers team. He was drafted in the first round, so there was some expectations, but he got drafted to that Indiana Pacers team that already had Danny Granger. And Danny Granger was supposed to be the guy at this time. He was supposed to be Indy's guy. You know, they took Paul George, and Danny Granger started getting hurt, and Paul started taking off. So I think Paul George deserved credit because he one of them guys like that Indiana Pacers team with him went toe to toe with Bron in Miami. And a lot of us consider that Miami Bron the best version of him. And he went toe to toe with them guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Took him to game 7, all that good stuff. You know what I mean? And, you know, it was the big Dominique Wilkins type deal. Like, man, you just ran up on Bron. Now, there's no guarantee that he would have won a championship, and you know, whoever came out of the West, like the Spurs or the Thunder, and they don't. But I ain't gonna lie, if LeBron James did not exist, or was still in Cleveland or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to see that Paul George Indy team play OKC in the Thunder.
Mm.
That would have been crazy because they both young. You know, Paul kind of young, KD still young. KD just won MVP. You got Roy Hibbert and
D West.
yeah, David West, and then they got Serge Ibaka, Russell Westbrook, James Harden coming off the bench. That would have been a good little series. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm you know, Bron, D Wade, and those guys. It don't get much better than them. But I would have loved to see that too. So, and then at the same time, Paul was one of them guys I was considering like, man, Paul George, Dominique Wilkins.
Mm-hmm.
Paul got more all NBA teams, all first teams, all defensive teams. Dominique wasn't really known for defense like that. So I kind of slid Paul in over him because it was between them two for me, honestly, to be that 10th spot.
Mm.
But I slid Paul in over him for the all defensive teams. And they were in similar situations. Dominique ran up on Bird, and Paul ran up on Bron. So, and and then I also put a lot of respect on the fact he broke his leg that year, as crazy as it was, and then came back and was like runner up for MVP in OKC. So I put a lot of respect on that also. But yeah, Paul George, number 10.
Yeah, he was like, when it came down to it, like I first like threw names out there. I was like, oh, he gonna be on this, he gonna be on this, he gonna be on the list. I ended up with like 15 people of like a strong going to be on the list.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I gotta cut it down to 10. All right, so
Mm-hmm.
Paul was one of those guys. It was tough, but sadly, I don't have him on my list, man. And I think because, like you said, he doesn't have any of the individual accolades. And I got the guy who's number 10th on mine. He doesn't have the accolades on mine either. But I think when you look at the overall package of what they brought, as far as the numbers and stats and the play and everything, it takes one more. And he played longer and everything, but that's why I got him on here. So my number 10, which some people probably gonna hate me for, is Carmelo Anthony.
I ain't mad at that.
He was one of them people that, for me, it's like he could have been higher, but then started looking one step deeper into the individual accolades. It's like, oh, you don't have the MVPs or the stats to back up being higher on this list for me. So, but hold on, let me find my stats, bro. I did a little research.
Go ahead.
Where Melo at? All right. So with Carmelo Anthony, he's a 10-time All-Star, 6 all-time All-NBA. And this is in the era when he's going against Bron, Paul Pierce, and these guys for like that 3 position. So to get 6 All-NBA, very respectable. So 10-time All-Star. He was a scoring champ. Okay. But here's the part that really, I won't say bothers me. Like, it's respectable, but it still bothers me at the same time. Is that he has almost 30,000 career points. And if he wasn't like blackballed, you know, the last couple of years of his career, he would have got over there. So
yeah,
respectable enough that he's 12th all time on the scoring list, like 12th all time. He easily could have been in that 30,000 club, like easily. So that's what kind of pushed me to be like, I have to put him over certain people. because that right there is like, oh, he's a bucket and he's a long time bucket. And not just he's going for 30, 40 every once in a while and then he has downplay. No, no, no. He's going for 30 for years. So it's like he's a consistent bucket. You talk about one of the all-time scorers. He's mentioned in that category. You got to put his name in there. He's probably number one for some people. Somebody say he's the best bucket all time. Like, hey, do what you got to
I
do.
ain't mad at
Do what you got to do,
that.
brother. Like he's top 5 buckets all time. So my number 10th pick is Carmelo Anthony. Man, it was tough to leave PG off, but I got to go Melo number 10.
Oh man, boy, Melo is a funny case, man, because he's one of those guys, kind of like my take with Kobe a while back. He's one of them guys that we respect and love Melo so much. But when you take a deep dive into what he really did, the totality of his career, you start looking at it like, man, it ain't really adding up. You know what I mean? To some other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how, I mean, we ain't got to get into it again, obviously, but, that's kind of how I did Kobe, too, when it came to the GOAT debate. Now, this ain't the GOAT debate. This is a different type of debate.
Mm-hmm.
But once you start really taking a deep dive, it's like, man, he only got 6 All-NBAs? It feel like Melo was running the league with Bron for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you really think about it, like you said, man, you come in 03, you obviously came in same year as Bron, so you can compete with Bron every year for one of them spots in the All-NBA. Then you got Paul Pierce. For a little while, you had Tracy McGrady. For a little while, you had, what's my boy name? I mean, you got D-Wade, but that's a guard spot. I'm trying to think of a forward. I mean, you still got Kobe. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got guys in the league. Then Kevin Durant come in as he in his prime. It's like, dang, bro. It get tough. You know what I mean? That forward spot, them 2 forward spots. Because, back in the day, it used to be 2 guards, 2 forwards, and a center
Yep.
for all NBA. Them forward spots was tough. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that was one of the toughest ones.
Because for guards, they going to put a point guard and a shooting guard. So if you're the best point guard in the league, you're going to get that point guard spot. You're the best shooting guard in the league, you're going to get that shooting guard spot. It's a good 6, 7 forwards every year that's like, who had the best record?
Yeah. I think that's what I was going to say. I think that's what hurt him is because some of them years he was balling, but, it's LeBron and Kevin Durant and Paul Pierce running that time. So, like, from 08 until 2010, 2011, Paul Pierce was taking one of those spots, arguably. And then you look
Yeah.
at from what, 05, 06, LeBron taking one of those spots, and then KD probably taking the spots from 07, 08 to now. He's taking one of those spots. So he's looking to fight for third most of his career.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you fight for second and third of most of your career because Brian KD taking one of those spots guaranteed. Paul Pierce snuck in and took one of them. So if Bron didn't get it, KD got it. KD didn't get it, Bron got it. But more than likely, LeBron got it. So probably Bron and KD at them 4 spots. Paul Pierce, Melo fighting for that second spot. So it was tough, man. But if he could have won more, because you think about championship winners and championship contenders, those 3 had it. And Melo was like, we'll think about you afterwards. We'll get to the
Right.
meat and potatoes first. We'll think about you afterwards.
Yeah, man, it's tough, bro. I love Melo though. Like I said, he one of them guys, man. You love Melo. He's such a part of the culture. But then you really take a deep dive into his career, and it's like, some guys got a little more on their resume. But with all that being said, I got Carmelo Anthony number 9. One spot above Paul George. And honestly, when I really took a deep dive into their careers, I started to put Paul over Melo. The main reason I did this for what you said about his scoring. He ain't near touching 30,000, and he really should have been in the 30,000 club. 12 all-time scoring. That's a big deal. And the 3 gold medals. I know we just came off the Olympics. It's fresh on my mind. It might be a little recency bias, Paul. PG, don't hate me for that. I'm sure you won't.
I didn't think about the Olympics part, but go ahead.
The Olympics was fresh on my mind doing this. So I'm like, man, Melo do got 3 Olympic teams, and he was the best player for them Olympics most of the time. So I put a lot of respect on that as well. And what people don't think about, obviously, a lot of times, when we talking about the Olympics, I ain't trying to shift this into Olympic talk, but when we talking about the Olympics, when you got multiple gold medals, people kind of just take the gold medal as a given, obviously. But for a player to have multiple gold medals, not Team USA, but for one player, that is a sign of longevity.
Yeah.
Because the Olympics is only every 4 years. So that means for at least 12 years, you was one of the best players in the world that we still decided to take you. You know what I mean? So KD just won his fourth. That's 16 years. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, a lot of that got to do with the year you drafted. What year you came in. It's a little bit of luck involved. Like the guys that's about to get drafted, well, not about to. Like the guys in this 2024 draft, any of them guys that might possibly be in the Olympics in 2028, that's going to be 4 years from now. They're going to be 4 years into the league. So, of course, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to touch, 4 gold medals like KD. But even still, man, them winning multiple Olympic gold medals, that means you was one of the best players in the world for a long time.
Yeah.
You got to be, you know what I mean? It ain't no accident. So I put a lot of respect on that as well. So that and the points, 12 all-time in points, I took that to give him a little bit of the edge over Paul George. Despite Paul George having a few more All-NBAs and all-defensive teams, I had to give it to Melo right there.
And I forgot to say this. He has I give him the award for like one of the funniest and most infamous phrases of all time. You know what I'm talking about?
But the rebounds, yes, bro. The culture, bro. The culture.
No, that's funny. Like he probably has that, and it's like it just became a thing. I don't know. I don't remember when it started. I think when he was it New York when it started for him? Or was it later on in his career?
Bro, it was in New York, bro. I remember hearing that in game, like watching the game on TV. He said it that loud.
I gotta get the out of here. I was like, yo,
he just said that.
Am I tripping?
But he's so New York, like he's so New York. It just makes sense. Like you can't even be mad because it's Melo. But yeah, I could agree with that. He got such a huge impact on the culture. Like Melo was one of them guys, man. He's one of them guys.
Yeah, so it was tough for me to put him 10th on mine. Honestly, I got Patrick Ewing number 9. And
understandable.
It was like 9, 10, 10, 9. It was tough for me, man. But Patrick is up there, man. The way he carried New York on his back for so long and he put on for them, man. And I think what kind of gave me the edge was the fact that he gave you more defensively. And
I understand that.
It's tough, man, because Melo carried multiple franchises. Like he carried Denver, he was the guy for them. Went to New York, carried them, he was the guy for them. And Patrick just held down New York, which is one of the toughest places to play. So him to hold down that one franchise and have them championship dreaming pretty much the entire time he was there is respectable. And he was 7th time
dreaming, bro.
Huh?
He had him dreaming.
Yeah, he had him dream. I mean, the dream never came true, but
there was a little bit of a stray. It was like he had him dreaming. He had him believing.
He had him in contention. It wasn't like it was just second round. It wasn't like he was just second round and bust. He got a couple conference championships. I think he had one finals appearance. I think. Am I tripping?
No, I don't think they ever made it to the finals.
No, I'm tripping. They didn't make it to the finals. But they had that conference appearance. So he had them dreaming. It was like, oh, this is gonna be our year. He had a couple teams where it's like, all right. But then it was like, nah, we ain't there yet. So but him being more of a defensive juggernaut, 3-time all defensive MVP, 3 all-time defensive teams. He won Rookie of the Year, and he's 31st on all-time points scored, 26th on all-time rebounds, and 9th on all-time blocks. So as a big man, you hitting like all the check marks you would want from your big, and plus he won Rookie of the Year. So that's like the one individual accolade he has over Carmelo. But Carmelo ran against LeBron, and it was debatable on who LeBron or Melo could have got it. So it's tough to use that as like the single piece. But honestly, man, I could switch this and feel good about it either way. So for me, I got Patrick Ewing number 9, man.
I mean, I ain't mad at that. I am not mad at that, honestly. Patrick Ewing is one of them guys, came up in a tough time. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, I don't got Patrick Ewing on my list.
Hmm.
So he probably be the first. That's the first guy we really just like. Yeah, I had to leave him off. I like Patrick, but this is why I don't have Ewing on my list. Honestly, I don't think there was ever a time he was the best center in the NBA. So I think that kind of held me back from putting. I thought about him. I gave him some thought, but I put a lot of stock in that.
Mhm.
Now, obviously, Melo was never the best small forward in the NBA, but you talking about a time with LeBron James.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But Patrick Ewing, same thing can be said for Paul George. But Patrick Ewing played in a time where the big man was the big man. That was the most dominant position. Probably like that 90s era was the best time for centers.
Mhm.
That was like center-centric basketball. So you talking about a time with young Shaq,
David
Elijah
Robinson.
Wan, David Robinson, Tim Duncan was a power forward, but this is a time where bigs was bigs. The Dikembe Mutombo,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Them guys was walking around. So there was never a time I feel like, and I'm not exactly sure what year he got drafted, so I'm not gonna pretend to know. But
Like 85, 83. He was in like mid 80s, mid to early 80s.
mid 80s. So you talking about mid 80s into the 90s. You talking about a time where you came in, Robert Parrish was in the league, Bill Wall was in the league. Who else am I like?
Kareem.
There's some guy. Kareem was still in the league. There's some guys that was in the league that was on decline. And then coming into the 90s, you got your guys I just named with the Shaqs and the David Robinsons and them guys. There was a time in there. There was probably a sweet spot in there. He should have been the best center in the league, and I just don't see that. I don't see there. Like I cannot think in my mind pinpoint a specific time. Like, hey, bro, Patrick was the best center in the league, 91. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I could be mistaken. Somebody might correct me later on, but I feel like he definitely should have a moment where he was the best guy, like the best center. And I don't think he ever did, so I left him off the list. Now, there was a time where, like, Patrick Ewing was, like, first team All-NBA 2 or 3 years in a row. I might would have slid him in. But he just never had that moment, man, that time. And, he played for the Knicks. That's tough. You know what I mean? They had a squad later on, but it's tough for the
Yeah.
Knicks.
But I think that's kind of why I boosted him on there, is because you think about who he ran up against and the fact he held his own with the Knicks squad who wasn't as talented at the time. So like his core competition was David Robinson, Dream, maybe Shaq, you want to throw him in there. So against those three,
Right.
he's you want to throw Shaq in that list? Like he was 92. So yeah, Shaq, let's throw Shaq in there. So
Yeah.
Shaq, Dream, David Robinson, Patrick. Out of those four, he's the only one without a ring.
Right.
So that's where it's like, is there any other big man during that time frame that you would pick over Patrick outside of them three? And I don't think so. Like I have to sit down and really think about it and look through the list of rosters and everything. But I think Patrick is probably the fourth best big of the 90s. Unless you want to throw Tim Duncan as a five, then bumps him down a spot. But of that time
Nah,
frame,
okay.
he's the best big without a ring. It sucks to have that, but so that's why I have to put him in there. Being the fourth best big, or you could put him over David Robinson if you wanted to. I don't think I would, but some people probably would, mainly if you're from New York. But
Mainly.
and so for him to be the fourth best big and the only without a ring is a level of respect at the same time, because you just couldn't. You ran against Jordan every single time. You ran against Shaq, and he just couldn't finally climb over that hurdle. So I can't knock you for
Yeah.
not being the best big of the greatest of bigs. Like similar to Paul George, he's not the best. I don't even think he's top three wings of his era of generation. Because usually it's like LeBron, KD, Kawhi. Maybe Melo's still over him if you want to count him in that category too. So then you start looking at the Paul Georges and stuff. So for them to be in a similar spot, it's like, let me take Patrick over him in the era where bigs were bigs, and you ran into against arguably the GOAT, and arguably the GOAT GOAT centers. One of them two for me is Dream or Shaq. So like those are the GOAT centers of all time. So you ran against both of them, it's like, all right, bro, you take your L and you just, keep your head up and chest out. So that's why I put Patrick on there, and it's like, all right, bro, like it's tough to take you off. So I have to put you on there out of respect of all of that.
All right, so let me ask you this question. Hey, I ain't trying to get us off topic.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the greatest Knick of all time?
Whew.
Because you got your Willis Reed and your Bernard Kings.
Yeah.
From way back when. Willis Reed obviously got the championship. Then you got your Patrick Ewing.
Mm-hmm.
And you got your Carmelo Anthony's.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm asking you, though, who is the greatest Knick of all time?
I was probably say Jalen Brunson or Julius Randle.
There you guys said Jalen Brunson. Hey, but we just going to cancel the episode. I'm like, I can't take this man serious.
Nah, man. But seriously, the reason I will give it to Patrick, because me personally, I can't throw Willis Reed and Bernard. Like, respect to them, but I didn't grow up during your era, so I don't know enough. So automatically omit it from me. No disrespect, no shade. So I had to go Patrick because he was the Knick, Mr. Knick for I don't know how many years, like the last 3 years of his career, I think. I forgot. So that's why I would go him over Carmelo. Is he had the longevity being a Knick longer.
Give me Melo, bro. I can't lie to you. I mean, obviously Melo is my generation. I got a lot of love, Melo. Give me Melo. Because, man, I do not believe people outside of New York truly believe that they was going to win championship. Like you said, Pat had them dreaming. Pat, John Starks, them guys, it's a solid squad. Now, solid squad. But I don't think nobody was like, hey, the Knicks might take it this year outside of people in New York. But when Melo and them was there, I knew. I was like, if they can beat Miami, they going all the way.
They had about 3 good years.
That was the whole thing.
They had about 3 good years.
You talking about Melo, Iman Shumpert, J.R. Smith, Tyson Chandler, Amari Stoudemire.
J. Kidd was in there.
That was J. Kidd was there for a little while.
Steve
man.
Novak.
That was
Steve Novak with the.
Yeah, man. Who could be the legend Steve Novak? Trey Ball, good. But, yeah, man, that Knicks squad back in that day with Melo, Amari, and Tyson Chandler was there. I knew. I was like, if they could beat Miami, they going all the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the biggest hurdle. Now, obviously, nobody beat Miami in the East. So, it's one of them things. But, man, if I didn't have faith, boy, I was like, boy, they beat Miami. They can do it. So, give me Carmelo, man. Melo had them guys. That was a squad, and Melo led the squad, and he had New York lit. Now, obviously, Melo was a scorer. It's a little different. But he had New York lit for a long time when he was there, man. People had the Madison Square Garden meant something when Melo was there.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah, so it's honestly, it's toss-up, man. Like, I can go 9-10, 10-9, so I'm not going to fight you hard on which spot they're going to be on, but it's a toss-up for me, so that's the way I landed on this one. You can ask me tomorrow, I'll be like, yeah, give me Melo over Patrick, so it is what it is, man. So
you got to stand on that, man.
Listen, man, we talked about it before, man. Like, my first 3 are juggleable, and then my last few are juggleable. Like, you can, put the names in the hat, shake them up, pull it out, like, all right, I'll go with that one today. So, but number 7, excuse me, number 8.
Right.
Who you looking at, man?
I got none other than John Stockton, number 8. Now, John could have been a little bit higher, but the guys that I got on the list, the thing that holds John back, we all know about John Stockton, one of the greatest point guards of all-time assist record, all-time steals record, 2 records that'll probably never be broken,
Mm-hmm.
But thing about John is John was only got two All NBA first teams. So that means he was considered the best point guard in the league twice. Now, granted, you playing at the same time. Magic was still in the league. When he first came in, nobody was really looking at John like that, obviously. But then, in them 90s, I feel like he had a chance to be in the best point guard in the league for a long time. He was mostly All NBA second team. Now, I'm trying to really think who was in All NBA first team for that point guard spot in the 90s.
Magic had it like the
Magic was,
first couple years, but
yeah, Magic was still there. But after
you gotta think
Magic,
too, Magic wasn't really Magic, and at the same time, he retired in like 91, 92, so he could have had it more.
that's what I'm saying. He could have had more. And then another thing that kind of holds him back, John, I don't think nobody would say John was his team best player.
No.
And we're going to get into who the best player was in that team later, I'm sure. But nobody would say John Stockton was his team's best player, unlike most of the other guys on the list, or probably every other guy on the list. He probably the only guy on the list that wasn't his team's best player for the majority of his career.
Mm-hmm.
So but I have a lot of respect for John for the assist records and steals records. Now, a lot of people have some speculations about the assist records and how they was keeping track of assists back then, but at the end of the day, he got it, man. You know what I mean? So those are two records that'll probably never be broken, and I put a lot of respect on that. So, yeah, man, John Stockton, number 8. Shout out to John. Pass that thing like Stockton. I say that a lot. I say that a lot, so I got to put some respect on his name.
All right, so I looked it up, and he had third team, start up in 90, so 90, 91, he was third team. He fell to Kevin Johnson and Magic as the point guards.
Kevin Johnson.
I mean, he was balling. Put some respect on Kev. But he was second team. Yeah, after that, and he fell, which is kind of weird with Clyde and Mike, which is respectable, but it's still kind of weird not having a PG there.
They ain't put no point guard. Yeah.
So his second team again fell to Mark Price and Jordan. Who's Mark Price?
Mark Price.
Hey, Mark Price was was ahead of his time.
Mark Price was like that,
So I can't get mad about that, but it is what it is. I see a name that makes sense now, but I'm gonna mention that later. He was first team in 93, 94. He was first team 94, 95. Second team 95, 96 fell to Penny and Mike, respectable.
Shout out to Penny,
Shout out to Penny.
Penny Hardaway mentioned.
All right, so he was third team, but he fell to GP. That's the guy I mentioned before. Like, it makes sense, so GP.
It makes sense.
And Tim Hardaway, think about it again. He probably followed Timmy a lot. So he didn't make it 97, 98. Let me double check. Yeah, he didn't make it. Then 98, 99, he was third team, fell to GP and Tim Hardaway again. It's when the Young Bucks came in. J Kidd and AI took over.
Yeah, he didn't get no more All NBAs after 99.
So it was sweet after that. So it makes sense. Tim Hardaway, Price, Penny. It's like, all right, bro. You start looking at the names again. It's like, it makes sense. But when you're thinking about the top tier point guards, people are quick to throw Stockton in the top 5. But you look at this list and it's like, yes, you made All NBA, but you only had 2 first teams. It's like, it looks a little different now.
They do. I told you, man, when you take that deep dive into these people's career, people have a name with a legacy attached to it. But when you start deep diving into what they really did, that's not to take away what they did on the court. But when you start talking about awards and, the awards show who was really like outdoing the rest of the league. You know what I mean? At their time. And John was not outdoing these boys, man. Mark Price, first team All NBA. But Mark Price for the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 90s, first team All NBA over John Stockton. Now, I mean, this could have been one of them scenarios where people probably was back in the day talking about how you gonna get that to Mark over John. You know how it is. I'm sure somebody was saying that somewhere. But at the end of the day, we got to go with what happened and not what we thought should have happened. Y'all know what I say.
Here's the thing about NBA though, this is why I put so much more respect on it than the All-Star game, because it gets to a point where if you're All NBA, you're All NBA. Nobody's arguing if you should be on there or not. Like, that's the thing. If you're first, second team, nobody's arguing with that. they might argue they should be first over him, but you're all NBA. So it's like you were guaranteed to be the top 3 to 5 in your position because somebody can switch, like you saw with the it was Jordan
And
and
Clyde.
Clyde that took over and bumped them down. So it's like you're one of the top in your position, top 2 or 3, but as a guard, you're top 5. So like respectable to that. So that's the thing that I won't ever disrespect the voting for in that. But it does get nitpicky when you look at if you are going position by position, it gets to get a little more nitpicky. Like, oof, you a third team? Oh, okay. Now it's like, ugh. So not to knock it, what we're saying is you're the third best guard that year in the entire league, which is why I put so much more respect on all NBA. But it does get to a point when we start nitpicking, we're looking at other guys versus you. When we talking about top 10 in your position all the time, it's like, well, this guy had 10 first teams and you only had 5 first teams. You might have had more overall,
Mm-hmm.
but my highs were higher than yours. I was one of the best hoopers in my position for years. Versus you were the best players in the league for years. So it looks a little different when you look at John Stockton in the microscope. It's like, oh, you only had 2 first teams? Hmm. Hmm.
Looking spooky, John.
Yeah, so with that being said, he's my number 8 too. So I ain't got
Okay.
no fighting.
Not first. Yeah.
First agreement here. So that's what's up, man. But but okay, I want to throw this in there when I was looking at the stats, man. I wish I pulled it up, but he only had like 3 years, maybe 4 years, but he didn't play 82 games.
Yeah, he was one of them guys. They talk about him a lot about like him being an Iron
Like
Man. Like he played a lot of
the true
games.
OG Iron Man, bro. Like that man did. That's why people say the assist record will never get broken. Like Chris Paul, I remember an interview. Um, I forgot how long back it goes, but I think when he was with the Suns, I believe. Maybe he broke some record or he did some accomplishment. It was like, you think you ever get John's record? Nah, bro, that's done. Like I missed too many games and John played almost 20 years, something like that, or about 20 years. So it's like I can't even come close to that, man. That's why he got it. It's like, first off, you playing with Karl Malone, so that's guaranteed 8 assists right there.
Easy
That's eight
assist.
assists right there every game. And then you look at the longevity he had on top of that. It's like, bruh, I'm not touching that, man. Like, if you compare a point guard of that passing caliber, like a Steve Nash or a J Kidd, with the automatic big man bucket, mixed with the longevity, it's like it's tough to not see you getting that. I have to take it away from him, but it's like I see why you had the all time record because look at everybody else in the list. It's like, you don't have that punch to go to that's like a layup for you as far as you getting your assist in. Everybody else is like, bruh, like besides Magic having Kareem, which he didn't even have him his whole career, nobody's really had that guaranteed like my at least most of my career having that 1-2 punch of just like I got 8 assists a game just off of you. So the rest of them I get is like I kind of have to work a little bit more for him. But that's the thing about John, man. He was an Iron Man for real. Like I was looking at that, I was like 82, 82, 82, 80, 79, 78, 82, 82. I'm like, bruh, do you like miss anything? Like when the rest wrong with your body, bruh? So respecting him, respecting him for that.
A lot of respect for John, man. I love John. He I feel like I feel like hey, you can correct me if I'm wrong. And we ain't gotta get into it too much. John might be the best white basketball player after Larry Bird. He might be the second best white boy
Okay,
ever.
how are we categorizing white as like
Not foreigners. Not foreigners. Born in America, white
because I
boy.
was gonna say Steve Nash, but he's Canadian.
He's Canadian. American bred, born and raised, white guy.
Just
John might be number
Pistol
two.
Pete.
I'm taking John over Pistol
I
Pete.
don't know.
Not,
I don't know.
legend. Now, don't get me wrong. Pete, obviously, probably the better like hooper because what he was doing, especially for his time. But if we talking legacy,
Okay,
John probably,
but
yeah, John got the better
but at the
legacy.
same time, he didn't play as long as him, so that's what kind of takes
That's
away.
also
So
true
if
too.
if he would have had the career longevity, I guarantee he would at least some scoring records. At least like that boy would have. He was dropping 40 balls before 40 balls was like a thing. Like
Yeah, he was
you
going
know,
crazy. No 3-point line.
stupid. So that's where it's like I don't know. Pistol Pete might have had him, but I think about that, man. I think I know I'm missing somebody. I know I'm missing. So my brain just not grasping on it right now, and I'm gonna be mad at myself afterwards. But he,
No, don't worry about it. Y'all out just watching this. Y'all figure it out. I'm gonna put this up, bro. I'm posting this. Is John Stockton the second coldest white boy to ever play basketball after Larry Bird? Now we talking born, like I said, we talking born in America, born and raised, no foreigners, no Canadians, no Europeans, none of that. Born in America, white guy. Is John Stockton number 2 after Bird? Y'all let me know. So, and there we go. There's the clip.
yeah, I think he. Oh man, I guarantee.
It's somebody we ain't thinking about for sure.
And it depends on how far back
But
you want to go to, because you could go somebody like a Jerry West.
oh yeah, Jerry West, he'd be
Somebody
up
would say
there.
Bill Walton.
I don't know. Is Elgin Baylor white?
Man, what you?
Or is he mixed?
Elgin is black, bro.
He seemed kind of mixed. You know
I
what I
mean,
mean? Like he got
he might
some.
have had some of that good hair, but I'm pretty sure he was straight black.
Okay, my bad. I was unfamiliar,
You
Elgin.
tripping, bro? You
But
tripping.
when I look at pictures of him, he look mixed. Like he could almost be white with a tan. I'm sorry, Elgin. No disrespect,
Yeah, you tripping, bro.
my brother. But yeah,
You
Bill
tripping, man.
Walton. My fault, brother.
Oh
No
man,
disrespect.
boy, you.
But Bill Walton might be up there though. Bill Walton. Y'all go look up a picture of Elgin Baylor. Tell me like you can definitively say Elgin Baylor is black. I ain't saying he just ain't got no black in him. He probably mixed. But you can't just look at him and be like, oh yeah. But if you ain't know who Elgin Baylor was, you wouldn't look at him and be like, oh yeah, he black. Just based off pictures. Like, dang,
Oh
B. I ain't
man,
never shook bro hand. I don't know what he look like in
I haven't
person.
either. I know
I'm
he
just going
black.
off the
Come on, bro.
I'm just saying, bro. From the pictures, he look mixed. That's all I'm
Oh
saying.
man, you are funny, boy. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You are funny.
Yeah, man. Bill Walton is up there.
Oh man, but Bill Walton and Jerry West probably in contention. Like you said, non-European players. Yeah, Kevin McHale. Kevin McHale.
Taking John. John was the better player overall. Kevin McHale was a good, dirty work defensive player. One of the greatest power forwards now. Don't
I
get
was
me
gonna say,
wrong.
like, if,
One
if,
of the
if
greatest
you're
power.
looking at one of the greatest power forward before the '90s, I think people had him as the best power forward. Like before, he was like the
Oh
best.
yeah.
And then Chuck and Karl Malone came in, did damage. They're like, I'm taking one of them two. And now they got KG and Dirk, and Tim Duncan kind of like fighting for his position now. But so before you slip up some more, bro, let's go. That man just said.
Hey man, you don't know what race Elgin Baylor is for real. I don't know. Man, it could be a mix with all type of stuff. Anyway, number 7, I got none other than Steve Nash. One of the coldest Canadians ever touched the league.
Oh man.
Steve was one of them guys, man. Steve got 2 MVPs. Now they very debatable MVPs. I know how y'all do. Then one of them supposed to go to Kobe, all that good stuff. But regardless though, Steve got 2 MVPs at a point in time. It was real hard to get a guard to get MVP. You got it over Kobe. This is early 2000s, so you talking about Kobe. You talking about T-Max in the league. I just depending on the years for him,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. Vince Carter still in the league. You got a lot of good players. And then Steve still got 2 of them things. That's tough. One MVP at the same time as Shaq in the league. Tim Duncan in the league. You know what I mean? Don't get too much, don't get too much more steeper competition than them guys. You know what I mean? So I put a lot of respect on Steve. Steve could have honestly been a little higher, but I feel like his prime wasn't long enough for me, honestly. Now, the Phoenix Suns years, great. Great Phoenix Suns years. And then even in
Mm-hmm.
Dallas, he still was pretty good in Dallas. But I also think Steve had enough talent around him to get the job done and win him one. and it just never manifested. So I think I hold that against him a little bit. A lot of these guys, you don't really have a team, or you came up in the wrong time to win a
Mhm.
ring. I think Steve had enough at a certain point. Them Phoenix Suns years, and shoot, the Dallas years, one or two of them years, he had enough. I feel like he probably could have got it done. But like, he didn't run up against no Shaq and Kobe's. They was in the league, but he didn't run up against that
Yeah.
team. You know what I mean? And then, no Michael Jordans, no LeBrons in Miami.
I think for him, it was always like the Tim Duncan Spurs.
The Spurs was there for sure. But you talking about Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and Manu Ginobili still. Yeah, Manu was there. This is early Manu.
Mm-hmm.
You talking about Tony, Manu, and Tim Duncan. You got Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire,
Sean Marion.
and Sean Marion. It was Tyson Chandler there, or my tripping?
Nah, he wasn't there.
No, my fault then. But yeah, if you ask me, ain't nobody on the Suns as good as Timmy. But the rest of y'all, I mean, y'all got a squad. Let's make some shape now. So, but still, a lot of respect for Steve and them two MVPs, man. Not many people on this list got more than one, and so that deserves to be respected by itself. But yeah, Steve, number 7, man. What you think?
I got him number 7 on mine as well. So that's interesting.
Hey, man. Yeah, we rolling now.
Yeah, so I think it's the thing, man. So now we're in that range of where I could have, if once again, put a name in a hat and pull him out. I wouldn't be mad if you moved him up a spot or two, or moved down a spot or two. I'm not mad about that. The thing about Steve Nash, like you said, he has 2 MVPs, which I wanted to put him higher. But then I started thinking more of like player for player, who would I rather have, or who did more, or whose records hold a little bit more weight. Like what things did they do to where I could put them over Nash. And so Nash, it was a tough one, and he could, like, if I look at it again, I could arguably put him like number 5, maybe number 4. But now look at like player for player, I would probably take these other guys before I pick Nash again. But if we're talking for his position all time, he's probably still top 5-ish. Like I could have an argument for being in my top 5. Like it's not like automatic top 5, but I could have an argument for that day. Like if I had to put it right now, he's probably like number 7 all time for his position. So that's where it's like, okay, I will take him over John Stockton for sure, which is why I have him over this list. But Nash is up there. But I think the MVPs is what could have boosted him higher on this list.
Of course.
But I think, like you said, the longevity is what hurts him and pulls him down at the same time too. So we agree with that one, man. It's funny we got 7, 8 being the same thing. So interesting to see. Interesting to see what the next couple people gonna look like.
Yeah, but we said it. He's like we both said them top 2-3 people is tough, and the bottom 2-3 people is tough. When we get in the middle, it's kind of like, yeah, he can get in, he can get in. So it's a little different.
Progress is not about perfection and being perfect. It's about making growth no matter what. It's about pushing yourself to the limit and beyond those limits. Every challenge that comes your way, you're overcoming them. And it's about striving to become more and doing more. Every single step, every single day, every single dribble is a victory. You've won as long as you're making progress. Because progress is the only goal. So invest into that progress, invest into that dream. Get yourself a reminder that progress is the only goal.
Yeah, man. Glad we got Steve in there, man. Number 7. So number 6, I got.
So I feel like we're gonna start debating. Like I think 6 through 4, we're gonna start debating and have like. I put him higher. I put him low. I think it's where it's gonna be good now.
Probably so, man. But number 6, I got the man, the myth, the legend, Allen Iverson. Hey, man. Now, do Allen Iverson deserve to be above Steve Nash? I say yes. And this is why. Hey, I only got one MVP. Once again, an MVP at a very tough time. But AI and that finals run, and AI, I don't think Steve Nash ever been to the finals. AI is the first person. AI and John Stockton are the first 2 people on the list to go to the finals. So other guys we named had never even touched the finals. But AI went to the finals in a very tough time, obviously, and went toe to toe Shaq and Kobe. Lost, obviously, stole the game off them, the only team to do so. And AI is 6 foot, maybe. Maybe. People, I don't think people put enough respect on that. AI might be 6 foot, 6'1", and he giving guys 40. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, think about all the best players in the NBA, the best guys you could think of. None of them under 6'6". Cole 6'6", Bron 6'9", Jordan 6'6". Like, then you got, don't you even mention the big mans, the Shaqs, the Hakeems, the Wilts, all like the best of the best are tall. AI might be 6'1"
On a good day.
on a good day, good shoes on. You know what I mean? Double sock. AI giving the league buckets, and at a time where guard play is tough, hand checking. Like, we fighting over that screen, you know what I mean? All that good stuff. Even got his own imprint on the game called, the Iverson screen. We still send Iverson screens to this day and calling it that. AI been retired for 10 years. We still send Iverson screens. 15 years, like however long it's been. But yeah, man, I put a lot of respect on what AI did, his print on basketball. I wish his prime could have been longer. I know he had a lot of personal issues and stuff going on, and that's unfortunate. But man, I think nobody will ever. He one of them guys like nobody will ever disrespect AI. We're gonna always remember what he did for the culture, man. And I ain't even brought up what he did for style and stuff like that. I'm talking about strictly basketball. Like, we send Iverson screens to this day for the best score. And all the Iverson screen is, we want you to have the ball, so we gonna send you these screens. That's all it is. So, yeah, man. Shout out to AI, number 6 on my list.
This is where we different. I got
Okay.
I got Russell Westbrook.
Okay.
It was really
All
tough.
right.
Like, I ain't gonna lie, it was really tough. But this is like, honestly, like I said before, these next 3 could really be swapped anyway, and I would not feel a way about it. This is like the most, like,
Right.
oh, put Westbrook here, put him here, put him here. I'm like, all right, cool, do your thing. I ain't mad about you, but I put Westbrook here. I think with him is he carried a lot of weight too, but he did it in such a way that also to an extent would hurt his team. And granted, you look at the stats, and you look at everything, it makes sense of why he had to do so much. Like, people, especially he was like triple double Russ after KD left, people were like, oh, he's stat pattern and he's trying to chase this record and doing things like that. And my argument against that was always the same, because at the same time, yes, he might be chasing stats. Let's say if he is. Do you not understand how hard it is to chase a triple double for 41 games, 42 games? Like, that's
Brother.
crazy. Like, first off, you have to be able to play 82 games to make that work. Which I know we kind of like, we get poo-pooed on for like, oh, yeah, like that was a standard back in the day. But like, in today's time where it's so easy to not do, especially being the number one guy, like, I'm taking off tonight, and they can't really say too much. Like, he wants to hoop and play. You got to put a level of respect on that. For him to be able to healthy enough to actually do that, number 2. But then 3 to want to play that hard every single night, you got to put a level of respect on that too. Like, a lot of people call him more of the modern day AI because of that. Like, he's a little reckless and he's a little wild. AI was too. He's more athletic and he's bigger, but he has that killer mindset mentality, that Mamba mentality of like, I'm gonna go out here and lay everything out on this floor, no matter what happens. So, excluding that, man, the triple doubles, the records he had, I think what he had 3 or 4 years of game triple doubles. He had like 2 with OKC. He had 1 with the Wizards, I think. So, come on, bro. Like, the man demolished that record, and it's not respected enough for what he did. So that's why I could have had him
You right.
higher because of all that stuff. But I think about his peaks and his highs. For me personally, I don't think they were higher enough than the people I have in front of him. And so that's why I pull him down a little bit, just a tiny bit, of why I have him at this spot rather than higher. Because if I look at the highs of what the other guys did and what they had, they were a little bit higher than what Russ had. And, Westbrook's my guy. So it hurts to put him not higher,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to be objective here and just, speak the truth of what it was. But for him to be 9-time All NBA, be an MVP, a 2-time scoring champ, 3-time assist champ, triple double king, he's number 1 in overall triple doubles, and he's top 10 all time in assists. He might be able to sneak up in the 30,000 club. I think that's tough to do. I don't think he will, but he probably could, depending on how long he plays and how well he plays with his roles and stuff. Um, but for a while, he was Iron Man too. Like he wasn't missing games until that freak injury with
Absolutely.
Pat Bev, where he messed him up. After that, he started going downhill. But for a while, he was Iron Man. Like he was not missing games. He wasn't missing time. So a lot of respect on Westbrook, man. I got him on my list at this spot for number 7, man. So it was tough, but I settled on Westbrook being right there.
Man, hey, you was right though. We got some differences here, and that's good though, man. I ain't mad at that. Russ at number 7 for you. Number 6. I got AI number 6. I think they pretty interchangeable, so I ain't mad at that at all. But moving forward, number 5, I got Charles Barkley.
Ooh,
Hey man,
Chuck.
Charles could have been a little higher. I love Chuck, but the guy I wanted Chuck to be top 5 because I feel like Chuck is the epitome of great player without a ring. He's probably like not the first, obviously, but when we think about great players without a ring, mostly because of TNT on NBA on TNT and
He probably
Shaq,
the
how
face
they
of it,
do
bro.
him. He about to face exactly. He's the poster boy for great player without a ring. I got Chuck number 5, man. I love Chuck, bro. Love what Chuck did. Bama boy, I'm always throw that out there. Chuck a
Leeds,
Bama boy. I
Alabama.
love the country and stuff. Leeds, boy, the sticks. So yeah, I love Chuck. Chuck, 11-time All NBA, 1993 MVP, and a time with Michael
Mm-hmm.
Jordan in the league. Chuck is the reason Mike ain't got the most MVPs all time. Chuck and another guy we're gonna get
Yeah.
into, obviously. But Chuck win MVP in the midst of one of the greatest basketball players
Mm-hmm.
of all time, and in the midst of playing with Karl Malone, who is obviously another top 5 power forward of all time. So them guys, he competed in a rough era, man. Went toe-to-toe with Mike in the finals, couldn't pull it off, obviously. But 11 All-NBA teams, 11 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
5 first team, 5 second team, and then a third team. That is longevity and consistency. 11 All-NBA teams in a row. I put a lot of respect on that, man. So you talking about being the best power forward in the league at the same time as Karl Malone, at the same time as Tim Duncan. Well, I mean, young Tim Duncan. And then, you still got the bigs in the league. You got the Shaqs. You got the Hakeems. You got the David Robinsons. And Chuck is in the mix every year. So, and once again, another, just like AI, Chuck 6'5", one of the best rebounding players ever. I'm 6'7". So just to put that in perspective, Chuck's 2 inches shorter than me and had the capability to lead the league in rebounds. So, yeah, man, I put a lot of respect on Chuck. Love Chuck, man. Bama boy. Shout out to him. Number 5. Top 5.
I got AI right here.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we weren't too far off. So I got AI right here. The reason why I put him over Westbrook is because, like I said, he had a higher high in my opinion. So and it's kind of weird to say that because the triple double and everything. But you think about AI might be the player who, and this is debatable, who did the most with the least of everybody on this list. Like you look at we had this conversation before about who had the worst final teams or who did the most with the least, and it's like between him and Bron probably had the worst finals teams, and we kind of went back and forth on that.
Right.
So for him to have that like to his name, no shade to Eric Snow, Kimbe, all them guys, like respect to y'all.
Nah, shade. It
But
wasn't
yeah,
enough.
respectfully, I would want enough. And so for him to do that, that's why I had to put him right here on this spot over Westbrook at least because he did most with the least. And so for him to win that MVP, go toe to toe with Shaq and Kobe by himself, and sneak a game off of that. Not only did he go head to head with him, but he snuck a game in there. And like everybody was like, oh, and do we want to use the straw broom? Do we want to use like a swifter to get him out of here? How are we sweeping them? We sweeping them. You want to get it, do you want to do it this way or that way? That's how the sweep's gonna go. So for him to sneak a game off there was respectable. The impact that he had on the game, like you said, just speaking strictly on the court. AI, like you said, Charles Barkley might be an inch shorter than you. AI is like an inch taller than me. I'm 5'10". So AI is like 5'10", 5'11", for real, for real. Like we being truthful about it. So probably the best player under 6 foot. It's very slim pickings when we talk about that. Like Chris Paul, he like 6', 6'1", depending on how you want to put him. But for people under 6 foot, AI's got to be number one. If we put him right at 6 foot, then he's in that small guard conversation for that. But he's probably number one on both of those sides. So I put AI right here. I mean, I spoke highly of him, so I ain't got to go too much down that rabbit hole. So I got AI right here, man.
I ain't mad at that at all. AI top 5. I'm good with that, man. Love AI. I wish I could have put him higher, but I just felt like you said, I guess we just think oppositely because I think the guys I got to hit him, their highs was better than his. His prime just wasn't long enough. If it was longer, if it was longer, he might would have had a ring. But if it was longer, man, he would have probably been one of the better, like, regardless of the ring or not, he would have been one of the better guys. But moving on, man. Number 4, I got Russell Westbrook. So I guess I put a little more stock in Russ' career than you do, ironically. But this is why I put Russ up there. Well, you already went on about Russ's accolades, the triple doubles, all that good stuff. But the reason I got him over Chuck and AI and all these other guys, Russ was not the best player on his team in the beginning of his career. Obviously, that was KD. KD wins MVP, all that good stuff. KD leaves. Russ turns into the MVP. He like, oh, KD left? I got it. Like, you know what I mean? And when KD left, I want people to really think about this too. When Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City Thunder, there was no trade. He left in free agency. They didn't get nothing back for KD. Who was on that team? Russ, Serge Ibaka was still there. I think Steven Adams was there at this time, young Steven Adams. So not even the big, muscle bound Steven Adams we know today. Trying to think who else was there. Shoot, I can't even name nobody else in that first year. Now later on, Victor Oladipo came, then Paul George came. Obviously, you know what I mean. And he had more help. And I think if Russ would have been a little less, I don't want to say selfish, but a little bit more of a, IQ would have been a little bit better. Let's say that. I think he could have probably made a run to another finals when he had Paul George and them. But when KD left, they didn't have nobody on that team for real. Not nobody that where you would be like, oh, yeah, they still good. Because James was already gone. James was gone first. And then KD left. And it was just Russ. And then Russ made it happen on his own, started averaging a triple-double, literally doing everything for the team. So I put a lot of respect on that. Losing the MVP and becoming the MVP, ain't too many people doing that. You know what I mean? So I got Russ number 4. I ain't got to say too much. You already spoke on his career a good bit, but love Russ, man. I know I'd be hard on Russ. I think his lows is very low, but his highs is the highs out of these guys. So I got to put him number 4.
Yeah, like I said, it's toss up, man. Like I could have easily swapped this and said, Westbrook before AI, and the reason why, like I said, I put AI over him because I think he had a higher high than Westbrook. Now, I think that Westbrook was like at that tier for longer, but I think his high was like Westbrook hit the 10, but he held at a 9 for longer than AI did. AI hit a 10, but it was like 10.10, but he only held it for like so long. So Westbrook was able to hold
Mhm.
that tier for a little bit longer than AI. I mean, yeah, than AI did. So that's why I put him there. So that's why I kind of did that. But just going over that roster, I think I had this the right year. So the mentionable names was rookie year Sabonis, Andre Roberson, campaign. That was his first year. Oladipo came that year. Anthony Morrow, Doug McDermott, um, Jeremiah Grant.
Not
You know what I'm saying?
moving the
Taj
needle, bro.
Gibson, Nick Collison, Norris Cole, Steven Adams, Alex. Like none of these people were just like
A bunch of role
it was
players.
superstar role players. But I think what hurt that team was like
Yeah.
Victor Oladipo never was healthy and never fully developed what he thought he would be. Like that was supposed to be a fresh start for him. People like, yeah, oh, 1-2 punch, next great backcourt. Victor Oladipo was Westbrook, great defensive players, athletic, and Depot never fully fleshed out to what he could have been in our eyes, at least. And injuries hurt him and everything, but that's what the projections and expectations were. But when your second best player is like Steven Adams, no offense, 'cause I'm a big, big, big Steven Adams guy. But when Steven Adams and Nick Collison looking at your next best players,
It's getting spooky.
nah, bro, nah. So it's tough, man. But we got number 4, right?
Yep.
Number 4, I gotta go with somebody we mentioned already. One of Russ's former teammates, Mr. James Harden. I got him number 4. And this is tough,
All right.
really tough. And the reason why I put him fourth over these guys is because he had like the highest high of all these guys, minus the finals thing with AI. But he had that joint for longer too. Like there was like a good 3 seasons maybe we were looking at Harden as the best player in the league. Like it was a strong case, like a strong, strong case. Like he had that one MVP, but we were like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you probably should have snuck 2 more of them in there. So it was a couple years where Harden was looking like he was on a burner, like he was on a flamethrower every night. That pocket where he was averaging like 40 for a season almost. It was looking real spooky out there. Like it was looking real rough. So I know you probably got him a little bit higher on yours if you do have him on there, which I ain't mad about. But I got him number 4 right here, man. So for him to do what he did as far as winning that MVP, holding it down as arguably the best scorer of all time. He's in that conversation we talked about before. 7-time All NBA, man. Like from 6 million a year to winning MVP. I don't think too many people have both of those on their resume. I think you can probably name like 3 other people that have that on their resume. 6 million a year and MVP. Those are 2 totally different awards when you look at them. Like yeah, you have an impact. Now you having the impact. It's 2 different categories. Like a impact and the impact are 2 different worlds. 2 different seats you got to wear. So for him to have both of those says a lot about his
Facts.
development and progression as far as his career goes. Um, and so I think with him not winning more postseason success hurt him overall as far as the way we see him and perceive him and stuff. But you gotta still remember, like James Harden was arguably the best scorer for like 2 years. You could throw more years on top of there. Like it's him and KD as far as the best scorers for a couple years. Kobe in the mix too, depending on which years you want to talk about. So it was tough, man, but I could arguably sneak him up there. But I think I feel comfortable putting him like I said, it's my 3 I could have wrestled with between 4 through 7. No, 4 through 6, excuse me. It's like who could have been where. So I got Harden, AI Westbrook. It could have easily been, you know, AI Westbrook and Harden. However you want to mix it up, it doesn't matter. So that's the order I settled down where I feel good about it. So I got Harden right there, number 4.
Yeah, man. Hey, you know me, man. Big James fan. Prime James Harden, bro. People say what they want, man. I love
Mm-hmm.
Prime James Harden, bro. Like, it was a time. It was just one of them things, man. I compare it to like Kobe's tear in the mid 2000s without Shaq. It's like you just had to be there because the way he was getting off, the way he was scoring. just being unstoppable, bro. Like people be like, oh, free throw merchant, fishing for fouls, stuff like that. Dog, the buckets he was getting, bro, B, for the life of me, I wish I could do the tween, cross tween as fast as he can. Cause brother, when I tell you, that's
Yeah.
unstoppable. Like just the fact that somebody is fast enough to tween like that many times, you don't know
Mm-hmm.
which way he going. So as a defender, you just like, all right, when he move, I'm gonna move. When he moved though,
Mm-hmm.
he gone. Then what you gonna do? You gotta bump him. He gonna draw the foul, or if you don't bump him, he gonna get to the rim, and now he landed. He finished with both hands. Man, dog. All that being said, I got
Yeah, I
James
felt
number
like he was
three.
number 3. I felt
So
like he was
before
number
I
3
get
for
to
you.
yeah, I got James number 3. Lord James game, brother. Ever since that game against the Clippers, where he snatched Buddy, pulled up, foul, bang, 4-point play, and he fell.
Like he is in awe of himself at this point. Don't reach, because he's going to preach. And then you're forced to close out. And one. Wow. He should have just said, I am a bad man.
And he was like, I was like, yeah, this the guy, bro.
Yeah.
He's him, bro. He's him. I ain't never seen nothing like that, dog. It's like, both of y'all,
Yeah.
4 points. Bro, man, goodness, I love James game, bro. Dog, it's one of them things for me personally. I could watch James Harden highlights. Like, he one of them guys. Basketball fans watching the chat, right? I'm finna say in the chat. Watching the video right now. The guys you look up highlights of, them your favorite players. I don't care who you like to watch in game. If you looking up their highlights, them your favorite players. Because that means you love their game. If you want to watch their highlights, like how everybody back in the day was looking up D-Rose highlights and stuff like that. James one of them guys for me. That pop, blow by.
Yeah.
Foul. I don't want. Like, that stuff, he could punch on you. The step back, bro, invented a double step back. Changed the game, bro. Like, man, I wish Chris Paul could have been healthier them Rockets years, because they were the biggest threat to the Warriors in that time frame. And Chris could never stay healthy in the playoffs. James underperformed some years too. I ain't gonna never, I'm always have to throw that in there. And I think he definitely underperforming nowadays in the finals and stuff. But not in the finals, in the playoffs. But them Rockets years, dog. 6 All-NBA first teams, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
in a row. 6 years, the best shooting guard in the league. Man,
Yeah.
James number 3.
I think here's the funny thing about James too, man. Like I think about this every so often. Like you start to see a player's maturation process. So the first couple years in the league, they kind of like just hooping with this youthful ignorance almost. Like they just going out there hooping. They don't understand the technicalities of it. They don't understand load management. It's like, bruh, I'm just coming out here and hoop. And young James, like OKC James Harden, he was just like having fun and hooping. Like it was so nasty what he was doing, bro. Like he had a bag, but it wasn't as polished of a bag. So like think about young John Morant. Think about how young D Wade was. Like when young Jordan before he really evolved and stuff. Young Kobe. When players are young, in the first 4, maybe 5 years, you're looking at like this rawness, potential of what they can be. Young Blake Griffin. Like you're not looking at that highlight the first couple years and like, oh man, this dude disgusting what he can do. But then he got traded to the Rockets, and I think after that second, either in that second or third season, like the second or third season when he was there, he really started. That's when he started to polish like the 20 stuff, and he really started to like dissect you and got more surgical and more efficient with the stuff. So when he went from young OKC, was probably the most fun for him to like watch and see, just like the highlights and everything. But when he got the polishing of his game, got more efficient, got more surgical of it, that's when it became like unfair to watch him. Because at that point it was like, oh, he like is toying with you to see he only got like 4 tools he's gonna pull out, but all of them gonna destroy you either way he wants to. So it's fun to see him take that evolution from like young, little wild, just goofy, You know that little meme they got with pizza rolls ready with him and OKC. Like you think about how he was with that. To now it's like Mr. Smooth,
Yeah.
NBA's most fashionable, MVP, triple double, 40 ball, like that era of James Harden to now, like it's weird to see him where he's at now. He can still ball and hoop and everything, but it's not the same. And I thought about this too. You brought up his inefficiencies in the postseason. I think that to an extent, we're too harsh on him with that. I don't get too deep into this, but I think we're too harsh on him with that because looking at his numbers never fail. But Shaq said this one day. He said it all the time, but for a reason, it stuck with me that day. And I thought about this with James Harden. It's like when you're a superstar, your numbers have to rise in the postseason. And I was like, okay. You hear that all the time from Shaq. Like you got to at least put up 4 more points and this many more rebounds, this many more assists if you're that type of player. I went and looked at Shaq. I mean, look at James Harden's stats. I'm like, his numbers never fail. They didn't rise. So he was still the same James Harden, but we don't need the same James Harden. We need better. So I think that's what really hurt him. We needed you to
More.
go from 28 to 32. We need that. We got to see you put up 34 points now. So you not being able to put up and do more is what hurt his team some. So in the big moments, he was still him, but we need more of you and better of you. So I think that's really what hurt him. But he never gave us a moment of being like a James Harden game or a James Harden moment. That's what really hurt him some. So I think that's the piece that hurts him overall in his legacy. And plus, he can't stay healthy, man. So it is not so much you can do with that. But
Right.
anyway, man, for me, my number 3 is probably going to be a little bit contradictory. Not contradictory, but a little controversial. I got the mailman here, man. I got mailman number 3.
I ain't mad at it,
Hey,
but I do not agree.
I got him number
Go
3
ahead.
because with all the stats and accolades he has, for the people I have in front of him and above him, yes, he was the best player, but it's something to be said about how much he was gift wrapped with his points and how he played. Now, granted, he could still did damage without John Stockton. I understand that. For the people I have above him, exactly.
Didn't have a John Stockton.
So that's where it's like, like I can't put him lower. I had to put him top 3. I had to because he still alone without John would have done damage. So I'm not trying to completely destroy what his reputation is. Like he was second all time. The time he retired, he was second all time scoring. So you can't sit here and say like John gave him all of that. So it's hard for me to knock him too much lower than that. But I will say John made a lot of those a lot easier for him. So compared to other first people I have in front of him, that's why I knocked him to number 3. But he easily could have been number 2, arguably could have been number 1 for me. So Karl Malone, mailman's up there, man. But for his longevity and everything, for what he did, it's ridiculous, bro. Like Karl Malone went 14-time All NBA. 14 is crazy to think about, bro. Like people have careers of being 14. This man was All NBA for 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like his first 2 years in the league, he didn't get it. And in his last 2 years in the league, he didn't get it. And like the last year he was in LA. So this man said, once he hit on top, I'm staying on top. He was there, like running it. And then he fell off. He's like, I'm not All NBA level no more. But he still had 14 All-Star games too. So that, and then he's the only other 2-time MVP, which part of why I wanted to put him higher too, but also why I didn't put him higher, because like I said, the John Stockton part. So I got mailman number 3. So I know you probably got him. No problem. I know you got him higher than that. So it's tough, man.
It's all good though, brother. I ain't mad at that. Mailman definitely deserves to be top 3. Like, it don't get much better than him resume wise as a player without a ring. Are probably one of the only players that could possibly be in contention of being in the top 10 or somebody's all-time top 10 period without a ring. Probably the only one with a real case. As somebody who don't have a ring, like you can think about it, like he probably one of the few that's like, if we was doing an all-time top 10, if somebody threw him in like 10, you might be all right with it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Depending on the rest of the list. But, nevertheless, number 2, I got Chris Paul. I believe Chris Paul. This is why I'm not even gonna get into all the awards, all the all NBAs, all that good stuff. He don't have many individual awards, but plenty of all NBA teams and longevity stuff. My thing with Chris Paul, every team Chris Paul went to got better. Every one of them. And I don't think everybody can say that. You know what I mean? And I ain't talking about he went there, came off the bench, and like Vince Carter rolled it. I'm talking about New Orleans, he was Chris Paul. He's CP3. Then he go to the Clippers. He's CP3. Lob City. Like, they contended. Granted, obviously, his health held him back a lot, but, obviously, they never get over the hump and get to the finals. From the Clippers, they send this man to OKC. And people thought he was done. No, he went to the Rockets first. I'm sorry. He went to the Rockets first. Him and James Harden, 1-2 punch, crazy. Great team. Had a chance to beat the Warriors. Chris couldn't stay healthy. From the Rockets, they sent this man to OKC. It was thought they were sending him out there to die. Like, if you remember, when they traded that man to OKC, it felt like they sent him there to retire. Like, all right, Chris, thank you for your service. Because nobody was in OKC at this point in time. There was no Russ. There was no KD. There was no Paul George. It was just going to be Chris Paul as the only superstar. Chris get out there. Who else was on that team?
Yeah, that was a young team. He was basically going to be the mentor for that team, but it was young SGA.
Yeah, he was supposed to just be their vet. Chris go there, get them boys in the playoffs with them young boys. And I'm just like, I put a lot of respect on that because, like I said, bro, it felt like they sent him there to retire. All right, Chris,
they finished fifth. Not only did they make the playoffs, they finished fifth.
Finished fifth. Shot everybody. Had a better record than last year. I was like, yo, bro, Chris, I put a lot of respect on that. And then from there, Leo OKC go to Phoenix and get them to the finals with Devin Booker, obviously. They get to the finals and they'll lose to my guy, Giannis. So I'm happy about that. Obviously, just because, Giannis is my guy. But I would have been happy if CP3 would have got it. I would have been happy that he got one. But I am glad my guy Giannis did get one. But yeah, man. Chris Paul, man, is literally like, he's just one of them guys, man. Like, I put a lot of respect on guys like Bron. He's in that Bron category of like everywhere he went, y'all were good. Nah, that can't be said for the Golden State year last year. Obviously, he came off the bench, but I mean, brother is in year 18, going into year 19 now. So I mean, I ain't too much expecting that out of him no more. But I'm excited what he gonna do for the Spurs this coming season with Wemby. It's kind of a similar situation. He finna go there and be the vet for them guys. They got young guards and obviously Victor Wembanyama. But I think he can really help them. You know what I mean? Even in his old age, I think he gonna really be able to help them. So, yeah, man, CP3 number 2. Got a lot of love for CP. I know he get a lot of hate nowadays, but yeah, man, I think he's the second best Rangers player as of right now.
Yeah, it feels kind of funny, man, but I got Chuck number 2.
Chuck number 2.
And I'm gonna make this kind of brief because we kind of already spoke on him. The reason why I took him over Carl is because, like I said before, like he never had that consistent John Stockton role. Like he went head to head with Jordan. It wasn't Malone and Stockton versus Jordan. It was Jordan going head to head with Chuck. So he did more with less. And I think that you look at the stats and everything, of course, Carl has more and he has better. But if you would have either cut down Karl Malone years or added more years to Chuck, he would have had. Of course, he wouldn't have had the same exact numbers. I don't think he would have been number 2 all time scoring the time he retired, but he would have had better. He would have had better. So a lot of love for Chuck, man. I think he would have probably crept up into maybe we hit 30,000. I'm not sure if he would have went that high, He only finished with 23. So I don't know how much more he would have did because his injury stuff held him back. And then early in his career, he wasn't the guy. He wasn't, he was with that 76er squad. So he was with Dr. J and Moses and all those guys. So Chuck is number 2 for me, man. I think he did more, and I would pick him over Karl Malone if we're picking players. Who's my power forward who I'm drafting. With him being like you said 6'6", 6'5", however tall he is. So I heard everything from like 6'4" to 6'6", so I just give him like 6'5", 6'6". But but for him to do that at that height, I think it also limit his career too because at some point you can't jump like that at old man, So for him to
Right.
so that's what kind of hurt him
That
as
is
well
true.
too. So he can't have as high as highs and without developing that skill. So for him to be, let's give him 6'7". Hell, you can't do all that, bro, when you 33, 34, 35. So for him to maintain that level of height, as high as he could have, was very tough to do. So he had to really change his game and change how he played and stuff. And I don't think he really did that, which is why he fell out sooner. But shout out to Chuck, man. And that's the reason I have him number 2. It's like Karl Malone's 3, Chuck is 2, because I think he carried more weight for his teams. And I think that if I was to win a draft or who I had to pick, I'm picking Chuck over Karl. So that's why I got him number 2, man. So without further, I know who your number 1 is, and you know who my number 1 is. So unless you got anything you want to say about that, we can get to number 1s.
No, I'm kind of glad you got Chuck higher. I wanted to put Chuck higher, but I felt like other guys just accomplished more team wise. But as a player, I do think Chuck deserved probably to be a little bit higher. I think Chuck had some teams, obviously, that couldn't be Michael Jordan, but like, one thing I kind of hold against
Mm-hmm.
Chuck, not to hold you long. When he joined the Rockies with Hakeem and them, it's like, all right, now Chuck. Y'all supposed to extol you one. You know what I mean? Karl Malone did the same thing, went to the Lakers. But Karl was in like year 18 at this point, something like that. So like Karl was old. But Chuck, I feel like Chuck was supposed to have got him one. And Chuck played with a lot of great players that we don't recognize all the time. Early years of Chuck, he played with Dr. J and Daryl Dawkins. And then later on, obviously in Phoenix, he played with Dan Marley and them, but they obviously ain't the
Kevin
best
Johnson.
team, but they a good team. Kevin Johnson, he's the engine that makes them go. Nah, do I think that team was beating the Bulls? No. But then the tail end of your career, you joined the Rockies with Hakeem and them. Obviously, Hakeem getting old, he getting old. But I don't know, man. You play with a lot of great players. So at a certain point, I got to hold that against you. I still love Chuck, still love what he was able to do. But that kind of kept me from putting him higher. But I ain't mad at you having him number 2, though. I'm happy about that. Because like you said, he kind of the poster child for great players without a ring. Now, a lot of that is due to Shaq, but it's okay. But you, like you said, you know who my number 1 is. I got Karl Malone number 1, man. I think Karl Malone, if we talk about great players that didn't get rings because of Michael Jordan, Karl the only one that would have had 2. Karl would have had 2 rings if it went for Michael Jordan. Now, I mean, there's not somebody in the East might would have came up and still would have beat them, but I doubt it. Just think about those teams in the East back then. But when during the 90s, when Jordan was winning. But Karl would have had 2 rings if it went for Michael Jordan. You talking about 11 years, like we said, of all NBA first teams. So, hands down the best power forward of the whole 90s era. Hands down the all 90s decade team, whatever you want to say. The hands down up there for the first team. I just think Karl did so much. Was second team all-time scoring. Now he's third, thanks to LeBron James. But with second overall all-time scoring for like years, for like 20 plus years until LeBron. So now he's third. And so you talking about a guy that's got more points than Michael Jordan as a power forward that played in the same time. Now, Mike took his hiatuses here and there, obviously, but you got to put respect on that man and won MVP in the midst of Michael Jordan's prime. You know what I mean? So a lot of that. a lot of him not having a ring has to do with Michael Jordan, but a lot of the stock we put on his resume also is because of Michael Jordan. Because it's like the stuff he did in the time when that man was over there in Chicago. I remember there was an interview with him where they asked him about Michael Jordan. And he said, "Oh, that's a bad man. Don't get it messed up, man. That's a bad man. But I'm bad too. I'm a bad man too." I said, "That's valid. I like that. that checks out." So yeah, man, I put a lot of respect on what he did. I'll never take it away from him. He came up in the wrong era, my guy. I hate that for you, but you would have had to if it went for Mike. So at least I respect you enough to put you number one. So that is my greatest player without a ring, Karl Malone.
I gotta go with Mr. Chris Paul. That's my number one, man. So the reason I put him on is, like you said, if you look at every team he went on, he won in spite of sometimes what you gave him. I think that I thought about this too, man. Like this is kind of a very tough conversation to have, like a very tough one. But if you think about how we view these players without a ring, whose legacy changes the most if they had that ring? And I think Chris Paul is arguably the one. Like it's really, I think, a tie between Carl and CP. Maybe Chuck,
I throw
Russ
Russ in
too.
there too.
Russ is up there, yeah. But you think about how the hate they get compared to the love they should get. So I think Chris Paul,
Yeah.
like we don't put him in that top 5 because he doesn't have a ring. And it's like, you got Stockton there. Oh, Stockton has the assists and steals records. I'm like, okay. Who you picking on your team though? Well, Chris Paul. Okay then, shut up. Like, come on, man. Like, so that's where I get annoyed with that. Like, respect to Stockton's greatness, but if we're drafting players, it's Magic, Isaiah, Curry, CP. You're looking at big old Westbrook's in that conversation, Stockton's in that conversation. Like, that's the core guys you're looking at. And so, out of all those guys we just mentioned and named, CP is the one who probably changed the most. Like if CP had one, if CP won in the Phoenix year, right? We're having a conversation of him being the top 3 all time. Like that's how different we look at him now. Like, and point guard, point guard. But somebody listening like, hold on, like nah, bro. So, top 3 point guards all time. We're having that strong conversation about him. Versus Carl, we already have you top 3 power forwards, arguably number 1, so it doesn't change you as much. And Russ is probably the only other guy who we looked at a little bit different. He's like, people don't have him top 10, but it's like, come on, bro. He's easily top 10. Now he speaks about top 5, maybe. So I think Chris Paul's career changes the most if he had a ring. You said something interesting about how Carl's probably the only one in the top 10 without a ring. And I probably would agree, man. Like, Chris Paul can be in that conversation, but I think if somebody said Karl Malone number 10, I'm like, valid. Chris Paul number 10, I'm like, yeah.
I don't know about that one.
Let me think about that. So, but I still think if Chris Paul had a ring, we bump him over because of that namesake of like, man, he should be top 3 point guard. He's, in my opinion, he's probably top 5. So I think his career changes the most. Like, you can't slander him as much because he won that ring. So I think that's really why I wrestle and settle on him being number 1 for my list.
Yeah, man, I ain't mad. We got our one. Wait, who was your number 2? Was Karl Malone 2 for you? No,
2.
you said Charles Barkley was 2.
He was 3.
Where was Karl Malone on your list? He was 3. Okay. So, yeah, man, I ain't mad. I love CP, bro. What he represents, what he stood for, how much he elevated the guys around him. I put a lot of respect in that. So I'm not mad at him being number 1 for you. I just think, like I said, when it come down to it, if somebody had Karl Malone top 10 all time, we wouldn't be like, we wouldn't kick him out the chat. Let's put it like that. If somebody had Chris Paul number 10, we'd be like, bro, Chris Paul. Look, and obviously it has a lot to do with the rings, but at least Karl Malone got the records to go with not having the rings. And Chris doesn't really have those records. Now, he obviously John John put that assist records way out of the atmosphere,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of tough. But same can be said with Karl Malone in points with Kareem. You know, he was second though. Second in points. I put a lot of respect on. I put more respect on second in all time in points than in assists. So I just kind of had to lean towards Karl when it came to that. But still, man, CP. I would love if Chris Paul just so happened to get him one. I know it's pretty unlikely now at this point. He with the Spurs, and I don't see them going all the way. So I really wish CP could have gotten one, man. If only they didn't mess my boy over when he was supposed to go to the Lakers.
That's gonna mention.
I think that was it.
Like, it's funny. He probably has the biggest veto trade in NBA history. So many Lakers fans bring that up. Like, man, Chris Paul could have been the one. Could the guys get third one for Kobe, or that third in that 3P era, and it's like he could have got him number 6 and all that stuff, man. So he probably has the biggest veto trade. We've seen a couple of them get vetoed, and it's like, nah, we ain't doing that. That's not acceptable. It's got reversed, but he probably has the biggest one. It's just another infamous award that I'm giving out.
Yeah, he would have. So just like I said, Karl Malone probably would have had 2 if it went for Jordan. Chris Paul would have had him 1 if it went for that. I believe Chris Paul would have had him 1 if he could have stayed healthy in Houston. I believe he could have stole. They would have stole 1 because they was the biggest threat to Golden State, like I said. But he could never stay healthy when it was needed.
He had 3 different times where we looked at him as championship contender. Like, he probably had 3 years in the Clippers where we were like, he probably had 2 strong years and a third questionable year. We like, the Clippers should go all the way. Never happened. Now, like you said, the Rockets team, they had those 2 years where it was like, man, they can probably upset. Especially that 1 year where it was close and he got hurt. And then they finally went to the finals that year with the Suns. And like, oh, this is the year they finally gonna get it. You could beat Giannis, but Giannis' Greek freak happened and messed that up. So he had 3 different spurts. And that's crazy to think about too. He had 3 different spurts of having championship caliber playing. So respect to that, man. Like, I don't think we can say that about too many other people on this list. So like, that alone is something respectable by his longevity too. Not just being great and for a long time, but being that level of great for that long of time.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That's all more of a reason why we look at him like he should have got it done too. So, Chris' biggest enemy was himself, was his own body, and that's tough. But still got a lot of love and respect for him, obviously. So that's it, though, man. Just to reiterate, my top 10 goes Karl Malone, James Harden, CP3, Russell Westbrook number 4, Charles Barkley 5, Allen Iverson 6, Steve Nash 7, John Stockton at 8, Melo Anthony at 9, and Paul George at 10.
Yeah, so my 10 goes Christopher Paul the third. He ain't the third, but Chris Paul, CP3 at number 1, Charles Barkley at 2, Karl Malone at 3, James Harden at 4, Allen Iverson 5, Westbrook at 6, Steve Nash at 7, John Stockton at 8, Patrick Ewing at 9, Carmelo Anthony at 10. It's a solid group, man. So
solid, man. Only people I think Patrick Ewing was the only one you got on your list that I didn't have on mine. I got Paul George in his place. Everybody else, we had the same names, just in different spots.
I thought we were gonna have like 2 probably that were not on, like 2 people that you had on your list that I didn't have on mine, or I had on my list you didn't have on yours. So, but it's interesting, man. Like, neither of us had Vince Carter.
Didn't do enough.
I think so. To kind of like get my brain, we start preparing for it, get my brain wrapped around, like seeing who the lists were people had on, like looked at different stuff on the internet, and there are 2 people, 1, 2, 3, 4 people that other people have on their list that we don't have on ours. That's pretty interesting to me. So,
oh well, they don't know what they're talking about. We do, obviously.
So, but this is the next round of honorable mentions. All right, so first and foremost, Vince Carter. He was the guy who, on paper, it's like, yeah, he should be top 10. He played 21 years, 22, something like that, and he did his thing. But then we think about it, it's like he didn't do his thing enough. It wasn't enough. I wouldn't put him. I don't know if I even have him top 10 shooting guards all time. That's art. I have to really think about it, but I don't know if I have him top 10 all time. Depending on where you put people, because you might have AI somewhere, you might
Mm.
have Trace McGrady somewhere, which we're gonna get to him too. But depending on where you got people slotted, I don't know if I have him top 10 all time in shooting guards. Like he can hoop, he can ball, he had really great highs, but I can't name too many times where Vince Carter was looked at and we could say, man, he's really special, especially compared to these other guys we got on the list. So love VC, man. Like that's I got him like nobody taking his crown as the best dunker of all time. Like in game and dunk contest, he has that crown for me all day. We're talking about hooping now. We're talking about a complete package.
Mm.
Not enough for me, man. So I love VC, Insanity, but I couldn't put it on the top 10.
Yeah, definitely deserves honorable mention though. Just didn't do enough, like you said, man. I love VC as well. Big part of the culture also, but he just one. He's just one of them guys that was special that just did never could get over that hump. Never did enough to really push his
Mm-hmm.
team over the limit. You know what I mean? So another guy I would throw an honorable mention right here,
Mm-hmm.
Blake Griffin. I think he's like in that C well category. Like the things he could do, what he did in his time was special. Just came up in a difficult kind of time to win it all, especially in LA with the Clippers. I believe they cursed. I don't care what nobody say. The Clippers are cursed, dog. They ain't gonna never win championships. I would never bet money that they would win a championship, dog. After what I seen in that bubble in 2020, I'm like, man, Blake and them were never gonna win it all. It turned into a whole different thing. Blake and them was never gonna win. It's the Clippers. It ain't them. But yeah, man, Blake Griffin. I really love Blake in his time. So flying here, dog. In his time, Blake was like one of them guys. Like people was thinking Blake might make that
And
jump
he
into
had like
MVP
a
status.
good year with he was putting
You
triple
know,
doubles and stuff. I think that's the time when Chris Paul was hurt for most of that season. He was still carrying the team, so he could have won the MVP that year.
mm. Yeah, people was thinking he could be MVP caliber player, especially next to Chris Paul. So I put a lot of respect on Blake too, man. Blake deserves an honorable mention. Just didn't do enough, man. And I think once he left the Clippers and then he went to Detroit, kind of faded off into non-existence. You know what I mean? He still was over there doing his thing though, but it's like nobody was paying attention no more because he played for Detroit. Detroit ain't making no noise. And then it's crazy. I didn't even realize this, but he played with the Celtics at the end of his career. Do you know this man retired last year, the year before they won championship? And they basically had the same team they got now. I think they added Kristaps Porzingis. Ain't this Kristaps Porzingis' first year
No,
in
I think it
Boston?
was second year, I believe.
So yeah, Porzingis was there. They made that trade and got Drew Holiday. So that's obviously a big difference maker. But yeah, Blake Griffin was there the year before they won championship and then retired. And then and now they didn't won. I said, dang, Blake. That's tough, boy. That's
I know he
tough.
probably feels sick. Like these boys don't win it without me. I could have rolled the bench one more year, man. Played a solid 40-some games, come in how I needed to. Play I had one little playoff series, at least 1 or 2 playoff games where do my thing. Got me a ring. He retired, man. So it's tough. That's tough. But
It
yeah,
was
shout
tough,
out to
boy.
Blake, man. He was one of the people that, like I said, it had to be an honorable mention. But I got to go to Vince Carter's cousin now, T Mac. He's one of the people that we saw, or at least I
Of
saw on the
course.
list. He came up again and again. And I think when people was making those lists, they got too caught up on the player and their highs versus their career. And those two different conversations. Because you're going strictly off player. Oh, let me look back at the list. If you're going strictly off player, oh yeah, I'm taking him. Probably nah. If we're going strictly off player, I might put him top 5. Might. But we look at the totality of his career, I can't put him in the top 10, man. And I love T Mac. I got a lot of respect for him, but he didn't do enough overall for me to put him in a conversation. So for as great as T Mac was, he had 7 All NBA and 7 All Stars. He was a 2-time scoring champ, so respected that. But then things start dying down.
Yeah.
When you're 78th all time in scoring, you ain't even hit 20,000 points. Now, I know a lot of that's due to his health and his injuries with back and everything. But it's
Yeah, of course.
like this is what we talked before, where career and accolades and stats and everything don't match the talent of what you should have been. So for him to argue to be the second best wing behind Kobe and to only have this much to show for it, it hurts him some. So player for player, he's up there. We talking about career now. Who had the best career, wrecking the ringless players? I can't put you that high when you only have 18,000 points. You feel me? So there's a lot of that to do with injuries and everything. But I got to deal with what actually happened, what we actually have. And if T Mac would have did more, easily, like
Mm-hmm.
get Ewing up out of there, bro. Ewing, you gone. T Mac, you on there. It's that easy. Probably would put him higher on my list, but for what he didn't do, hurt him. So that's why he's not on the list for me, at least.
Yeah, man. And y'all know my saying. Well, it ain't my saying, but I say it. The best ability is availability. And T Mac lacked that ability. So,
Yeah.
and that's not his fault. You know what I mean? I feel like people, when we say stuff like that, people make seem like, oh, I mean, he can't help you get hurt. Like, you're right, he can't. But I also cannot help that. So, yeah, man. I just T Mac. I feel like a lot of people have been making a comparison that Paul George is the younger generation's Tracy McGrady, well, like what Tracy McGrady was to our generation. Because you know how people coming up nowadays saying Paul George is the GOAT. Cayenne
Mhm.
Anthony said it. Juju Watkins love Paul George. Paul George just has influenced the younger generation so much. And people have been making the comparison that he is their Tracy McGrady. Like, doesn't have accolades and stuff. It doesn't have the awards that all the other guys that, the GOATs have. But the game and what he could do is special. And we recognize that, and he's a lot of people's favorite player. So, yeah, man, a lot of respect for T-Mac. Couldn't hold it together long enough, and that's okay, man. It's nobody's fault. Just one of them things. It's unfortunate. So, dang near want to put Derrick Rose in the honorable mention, but he still got time. Let's give him some more time before we come out.
I don't think he's gonna
Let's
be
give
able
him
to be
some more
honest.
time.
And I love D Rose, but I don't think he's gonna be in that discussion, man. So
He could ride the bench somewhere, man, and get him one, and we won't have to worry about it. You know what I mean? Not ride the bench, but come off the bench. I think he can still play.
Yeah. But
I think he come off the bench. That's why I say let's not throw him in there.
okay.
I want to believe. That's why he could be in the honorable mention. I want to believe he gonna come off the bench and contribute to a championship. Because he was in Minnesota. Where
That
is
is a
Derrick
really great
Rose
question.
now?
I forgot where he's at now.
Derrick Rose used to be in Minnesota.
Where is he at now? That's crazy. Oh, he's with the Grizzlies now. I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, he is with the Grizzlies. Yeah, he was just with the Timberwolves like 2 years ago. I want to say. So if he was dealing with the Timberwolves, like he would have had him a chance at a championship run. I think he could have helped too with that second unit coming in for Mike Conley. But yeah, man, I hope he get in one though, so we ain't got to throw my boy in there. But yeah, that's good though, man. T-Mac, Vince Carter, Blake Griffin. Second team honorable
Only reason
mention.
they second team is because we didn't want to spoil it. I ain't know which one you might have had T-Mac or something in there, and I ain't want to spoil it. So
yeah, saying I was gonna say Blake Griffin at the beginning too, but I thought you might would have had him like 9th or 10th.
Respect to Blake, but nah.
So
we ain't got to stay on this too long. But Reggie Miller, he was somebody on a lot of people's list, and
not a long enough.
I can't even
prime
say
for
that.
me.
I think because if this ain't knocking him, but if his style of play. Yes, he's arguably the second best shooting guard of that era. You could say Mitch Richmond and Clyde Drexler and stuff. Like, all right, cool.
Clyde.
But he probably had the highest highs of all those guys, career-wise, even though Clyde did get the ring. But for me, man, Reggie just isn't – he's so one-dimensional that it limits him.
Yeah. It's just he ain't doing enough to move the needle. Being an elite shooter obviously is a skill in itself. But I heard somebody in a Jordan and LeBron debate one time. He said the best competition at Michael Jordan's position was Reggie Miller, and there's not even a video of this man dunking. I said, bro, don't do him like that. Oh my God, that made me laugh so hard. Because I really have never seen a clip of him dunking. It's only jump shots. And like I said, man, being an elite shooter is definitely still a skill. How are you trying to take that away
Mm-hmm.
from him? That's one of the most sought after skills in basketball. But to think this man, I ain't never seen this man dunk.
In
That's
real,
kind of
how often do you
crazy.
see this man dribble besides like a 1-2 pull up?
No, for real. Like how much skill did he really
Yeah,
have
like
outside of his jumper? But he only had like 3 All NBAs or something like that, 3 or 4. So it
I
didn't
ain't even
last
look up
very
his
long
stats like that.
either
To
way.
be honest with you, like I just think about all this. Yeah,
No, I know that off the top of my head.
I
He
wouldn't
only got like
deep
4 All
dive into him.
NBAs.
Like I knew I automatic. Like what I said before, I made my list of people, and I'm like, I can't put him over Paul George and Melo and stuff, respecting him, but nah, man. And think the last person, and it's the one that hurt me, it's near and dear to my heart, my boy Dame. It's like
Oh yeah, I was gonna throw Dame in there too, but I thought you
nah.
might would have had him in there. Dame is all time top 75
We
though.
should have a conversation around that because I think that list is trash, bro. And part of it, and
It
no,
is
this is
trash.
where you can't call me a hater in doing it because you know how much I love Dame. He's probably him and Westbrook my current favorite players, like for right now. He shouldn't be on the list. Like respect the Dame, he shouldn't be on it. Get him and Anthony Davis out of there, put Dwight Howard on there, and maybe T Mac. I think I'm the other person I had, but Dwight Howard, I'll take Dwight Howard for sure.
The White
And
Howard for sure.
I forgot who else I put on my list. Maybe C. Webb. I forgot who else I had on there, but the White House for sure. Like that's guaranteed. Like should have been on that list. So I love Dane. That's my guy. But the lack of individual stuff hurts him. For how great he is, 7-time All NBA, 8-time All Star. He did win Rookie of the Year. He's tied for ninth for the most points scored in the game all time. Like it's a bucket right there. The man scored 71 points in the game. Like he did some damage, but he's not doing enough overall, man. I think that he's in that conversation. Like if he won a ring, it'll help his career out a lot more too. Or at least have more success, man. He's not on that prime time stage enough. Like he talked about before about how Steph Curry gets all this love and stuff, and I'm right there behind him. And respect. It's true. We're talking about all time shooters. He's right there behind him. But if he had more team success, I think we put more respect on his name. But I still can't put him high enough to
Of
put
course.
him like in that next tier of like we're talking about now, the top guys without a ring. So love Dame, but I gotta take him off that 75, and I can't put him in my top 10 for this list, man. So and it hurts, man, because I'm a Dame guy. I rock with Dame, but not enough, man.
Yeah, facts. Not enough. Like you said, I love Dame too, but man, hopefully he get him a ring in Milwaukee with my guy, and then he won't even have to worry about no more. But yeah, man, not enough for me, bro. Like he just, I would say this is a tough era for him to be who he is. If he would have came before Steph, Steph would have still, considering let's just consider that they both still do exactly what they did or what they have done. We'll still know Steph was better. But if Dame would have came before Steph, he'd have got a lot more love. But them coming up at the same time, doing what they're doing, Steph obviously just get the most of it because it's like, number one, he ain't Golden State. They winning championships. That's primetime television, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, Steph is still Steph. Dame doing very similar things at a slightly lower level, like very slightly lower level, but he ain't got the team success to go with it. So it's like almost the John Wall effect is what I like to call it. It's like empty stats. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how people be looking at it. If you ever look at how people react to him on the internet, they'd be like, what has Dame done? Dame hasn't even done anything in the league. And I'm like, brother, there's more stuff to do in the league than championships and MVPs. So you got to think about this longevity of this man. Like, what has he been doing and for how long? That Portland Trailblazers team was not all that.
Yeah.
And he getting them in the playoffs every year. You know what I mean? It's certain things that need more respect. You know what I mean? But not in this case though, because I would also not put him in there. He honorable mention. Love Dane. Think he got more. He obviously got more time though, so he gonna get in one.
I feel like if everybody on this list, man, I think he's probably the one. At least for right now, he has the best chance to get him one.
Yeah, I mean everybody else we named is retired, minus
I say,
James Harden. Well, no, I'm lying. We named a lot of good people that's still in the
well,
league.
no,
I
no.
was thinking
You
about the
got
honorable
Russ,
mention,
James, and him.
but
Oh yeah, Paul George.
yeah, and then I threw in
So
Paul George.
I think him and Westbrook, like right
Yeah,
now, the situations are they got the best chance because Russ is in Denver now, and
for sure.
then Milwaukee, and
Dame
love
in
CP,
Milwaukee.
you in San Antonio. My God, they rebuilding. As they can figure out how to super speed this up and get some other piece in there at a wing position that can, like a Kevin Durant, LeBron James type player. I don't know, man. It's looking pretty tough. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think that's it, man. They're the only guys who can look at sneaking them off this list and onto the championship side. So this is a good episode, though, man.
Yeah, yeah, man. I like it, bro. I like the conversation we had, bro. It's a lot of it's a lot of ups and downs when it comes to not winning rings. A lot of things you could say to get a guy, who you want in over another guy. But uh, I think it helps because it's like you don't have that cop out
Yep.
of like, oh, he just got more rings. You know what
Yep.
I mean? Brother got more rings, he better. And I try not to be that way, but sometimes it do come down to that. I was like, hey, man,
Yeah.
there's a reason Buddy got more rings. I hate to break it to you. So, yeah, man, I like it though, bro. I'm excited to see what the people got to say and if they feel like somebody should have been on that's not on there.
Yeah. I
I'm
think that's
excited
gonna be
about
the
that part too.
exciting part. I'm ready to see. I think they when we put the list out and people see who we have where, it's like, oh, you only got how the word you got Chris Paul over this player. How you got this person over that player? Or how don't you have him on the list at all? Like I guarantee somebody from our generation, like, how don't you have T Mac on there? How don't you have this person on there? And I'm like, bruh, stop it. Come on, man. Like, but yeah, we can, bro, because like,
We can argue.
listen to what I said. Like, tell me where Trace McGrady had as high and as long as highs than any of these guys. You can't. You cannot. All NBA shows you that. Like, come on, man. And I'm talking about All Star because I don't respect that award as much as most people do. Show me the All NBAs. Show me how he carried teams the way Melos and Patrick Ewings and Russ did. Like, you can't do that. I know he was hurt. That's part of my argument. So it's gonna be interesting to see what people have to say about this one, man. But I think it's really like a really a hoop nerds conversation because, like you said, you strip away the rings part of it. It's like it's kind of like the default. Well, he got 6 rings and he beat him in the finals. I'm like, yeah, but come on, man, like, it ain't that easy. So you can't just cop out and just say, oh, he got more rings or he did this in the finals, he did that. But there's some respect to be said about what they do in the finals and how they maintain themselves and how they like. There's something to be said about how all the guys in the top 10 have multiple rings. There's something to be said about that. Like every guy up there has at least 2.
Yeah.
Like Dream's probably the only guy in the top 10 that doesn't have 3. Like Bird, Magic, Bron, Kobe, Shaq, Jordan, of course. All these guys have 3 or more. Dream's the only one with 2. Duncan, he has 5. Like everybody else. So there's something to be said about being that great and having multiple rings. There's a reason why they have multiple rings. So it's hard to
Right.
put somebody on there with no
Right.
rings. Like you said, Carl is in that conversation of who people could probably look at like, I ain't mad about you. Chris Paul's probably top 20. If we're gonna think about it like that, maybe. I'd say I don't really think about it, but it's more of this hoop nerds conversation right here, man. So, but the conversation is in here. You got to see who y'all have in y'all top 10 or who we messed up on. In your opinion, I think my list is probably the better one. I think when we look at what we have compared to what the most of the internet has, I think they just going off of like their name versus the actual careers and everything. So we're gonna put this list out there and embarrass everybody. It's like, man, they're right, man. We shouldn't have Tracy McGrady and Vince Carter on there. Thank you. I know we're right. No
Thanks.
shade, but that's all it is. But if y'all been listening to this one, man, we appreciate y'all. It's a little bit longer video than we usually do, but the conversation calls for it. You feel me? So this is a good one. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next one. It's the another episode of Legends Art. So appreciate y'all, man. I'm out of here. Nelly. Anything else for the people?
Oh man, Reggie Miller only got 3 All NBAs, y'all. So I looked it up, but then we kept talking. But I'm gonna throw it in right here. He got All
Ooh,
NBA third team 3 times. They got 5 All Star
out of what,
appearances.
16, 17 years? How was it?
So how many years? Let me see. 87
Sheesh.
to 05, 18 years.
Hey, man. Hey,
Shout out to Reg though, man. Love you, Reg.
boy. Strong
Hey
honorable
man,
mention. Like,
honorable mention.
yeah, we're in the right there.
But yeah, man, appreciate y'all, man.
All right, man. What's your next one?